All right, good evening. It's Sunday night. It's 8 o'clock, and it's time to do this. Just got a new machine set up in the studio here. Still kind of working things out, trying to set things up. We're doing good that the green screen's operating. So no intro, no splash tonight. We're going in raw. Let's do this. So we've got an accuser popped up against Kavanaugh. We talked about this a little bit last week. I pointed out that the timing is suspicious, of course, just like with the Roy Moore case. But in all fairness, the suspiciousness of the timing is not in itself conclusively damning evidence against the veracity of the claim. But here's what we got to acknowledge. Other than the fact that Rod is having a steak instead of popcorn while he's watching this show, you know, there's something about a good rare steak that is just totally appropriate when you're listening to a grizzled old warfighter ramble on about politics and the fact of the matter. All right. And there we go, CNN analysis. The story of the 2018 midterms isn't written, but even if his party loses Congress, Trump shouldn't despair. Silver lining, Republicans lose either of their majorities on Capitol Hill in November, you have to go all the way back to Herbert Hoover to find a president who lost a majority in Congress during his first term and then lost re-election. Oh, that's cute. So, CNN is reporting that Donald Trump is going to be the next president. Woohoo! I'm sorry if I hurt your speakers, guys. I saw that every line on my mixer board redlined when I will try to contain my laughter in the future, because I know I've blown it out. So, this Dr. Christine Blasey Ford, I want to touch on something real quick. You know, I made a stupid. Has a bit of an echo quality. I don't know what to do about that right now. I will... All right, Julie, give me just a second. All right. Julie, if that fixed it, great. If not, I'll have to get deeper into the guts of the machines to do any better than that. So, once y'all catch up with me in the broadcast, leave me a comment and tell me whether or not I fixed the echo problem you're talking about. Okay, so, Dr. Blasey Ford. One of the interesting things that's been reported shortly after she came out is that there were a large number of damning critical comments on RateMyProfessor.com about Dr. Ford. And during my show prep this evening to get ready to talk to you guys about this, I figured I'd pull some of those comments that we could talk about. Well, I went on RateMyProfessor.com. I looked her up. I found her. She's the only professor in America with that name, Christine Blasey Ford, according to RateMyProfessor.com. And there is one student comment which you cannot read. Yes, dear, we're aware of, I'm sorry, we're aware of the echo. I just tried to fix it. If I failed to fix it, is it unbearable? Is it at a level that I just need to suspend the broadcast and come back next week? Anyway, so, yeah, apparently there were hundreds of incredibly negative comments, and now there is but one. Comments, and now there is but one. Went back and cleaned her up there. So somebody went back and cleaned her up there. Right after she. We also know that allegations. She went through right after she waged her allegations. She went through all her social media and just purged everything. But it still wasn't hard to find her and to identify her as a pink hat. She's a pink hat Democrat. I haven't seen anything about her being associated with BAM yet, but it would not surprise me. I haven't seen anything about her being associated with BAM yet, but it would not surprise me in the least. Because we are talking about a liberal California professor. And she says that. And she says that. Way worse all of a sudden. Way worse all of a sudden. I don't know. I do know. Don't know. Okay, guys, I got one more thing I'm going to try real quick to get rid of the echo. Okay, guys, I got one more thing I'm going to try real quick to get rid of the echo. And if it works, great. If not, I'll ask you if we can drive on. Okay, how's that? Okay, I'm going to keep talking because I can see the broadcast over there and y'all aren't seeing me back in the chair yet. Now you're seeing me. All right. Let me know if we got it fixed. So here we are, almost 8 minutes into the show, and we've dealt with audio issues. Thank God I've got you guys telling me that there are problems.
Did you get fixed?
I don't know.
Because I'm not sitting on my phone right now, so I don't know.
Okay. Julie says we're all fixed. Yo, j'avais from just now. Oh, thank you, dear. So, okay, I think we fixed the audio. I think I found a problem. And I think I've solved it, but I lack a DJ who might revolve it. Okay, so, if y'all notice the title of the episode, the title of the show tonight, on the thumbnail before you pop in and watch, I'm saying it straight up. This Ford chick is a liar. And I am happy to say it. And I am happy to be called to the match. This is a small channel. Nobody's going to find it, and nobody's going to find it and call me to the mat for it and take me in court over it. I wish they would, because I will make the demand. Okay, great. Let's go to court. Here's my claim. My claim is that you've made a claim without evidence, and that, barring the backing of that claim with evidence, I maintain that your claim is fallacious. You're a liar. You're a fucking liar. So, at first, the claim is made, I'm willing to give her the benefit of the doubt. I am not willing to believe her. I will never just believe her. Okay? Because the assertion that you must believe her, just blanket. She makes an allegation, and I do mean her in general, that a woman alleges a crime. It is not the duty of any person, male or female, to believe her, to offer the benefit of the doubt, to listen, to be receptive to the provision of evidence. These are reasonable demands. But to say, listen and believe, is to place the burden on the presumption of guilt. It is to demand that the accused prove their innocence. We've talked about this before. The Democrats love this shit. And that's why I want to call her a liar. That's why every American should call her a liar. Because when you call her a liar, what you are doing is the same thing that the Dems love to do to us, to anybody over and over again. When somebody says you're a racist, you cannot prove that you're not a racist because you cannot prove a negative. Atheists don't look like idiots because they deny that God exists. They look like idiots because they've chosen to undertake an impossible task, which is to disprove an unfalsifiable claim. I'm not making a statement or a position on the existence of God here. I'm making a claim about the nature of claims making. Oh, I didn't even get to the order of accusations yet, baby. We'll hit that in a minute. But the nature of claims making is this. When a positive claim is made, it can be proved to be true, but it cannot be proved to be false. The only way that a positive claim can be disproved is by proving it dispositively impossible. That's why allegations are met with alibis instead of evidence. Allegations need to be supported by evidence, but they must be met with alibis, and then alibis, of course, are claims which require evidence to back them up. So you make a claim. Joe murdered me. The obvious first defense is, I couldn't have murdered you, you're still alive. If I can then rebut with, no I'm not, I'm a ghost and here's the dead body to prove it, then Joe can say, well, I was in Kilimanjaro at the time of the murder, so I could not have done it. Now the claim has not been falsified, it has proved to be impossible. The claim is functionally falsified there, but you cannot say X is not true and then support that claim with evidence, because for X to not be true, a dispositive alternative must exist to prove its untruth. Otherwise, you have the claim that there's a God, and no way to prove different. At best, you can prove that a person's argument that a person's rhetorical, reasonable, or logical argument for X is flawed. Well, in the case of people like Blasey Ford, what they're doing is they're saying, you are a racist, or in this case, a rapist, and I can't prove it, but you can't disprove it. Well, of course he can't disprove it. Because in order to disprove a positive claim, an affirmative claim of truth, one has to prove alternatives. How are you going to offer an alibi for an unspecified time? He can't even say I was at a different party that night, because he doesn't know what night she's talking about. It is actually possible for there to have been two different parties, one at which she was raped by someone other than Brett Kavanaugh, and another one which was a separate party on the other side of town at which he was in attendance, at which party no one saw him rape anybody. And that would be, given the corroborating witnesses to place him at the one party and her at the other, that would be sufficient to establish a pretty tight alibi. I mean, as tight as an alibi can get across 40 frickin' years since the allegation. But I digress. But that would offer an alibi. That would, no, I cannot have done the thing that you say I did at the time that you say I did it in the place that you say I was, because I was not in that place at that time. And the statement has more than one attribute, it has more than one quality. The statement entails the fact pattern where the claim is that Judge Kavanaugh was at place A, which is an unnamed place, at a certain time, which time is also unnamed. And hell, as far as the clarity and specificity of this claim goes, he raped an unknown person who is now claiming to be this Democrat activist, or vice versa. But for her claim to be true, it must be true that he was at the place, at the time, and did the activity. It is possible for him to have been at the place and the time and not have done the activity. That's possible. What is not possible is for him to not have been at the place, or not to have been there at the time, or to have never been at the place. It is not possible for him to not have been at the place at the time of the activity and still have done the activity. See, he could have been there. He could have been there when she said he was there and not raped her. But he cannot have raped her without being where she says he was when she says he was there. And that's why that right there, that alone, is enough reason for me to find the whole bucket of worms suspicious. Because she is explicitly omitting the particular details that would allow him to formulate a defense to begin with. And then making the demand that Kavanaugh testify as to his account of the events before she offers her allegation under oath? No. It is very, very clear what's happening here. She opened her fat mouth. Trump and his Republicans were too accommodating. They should have dismissed her out of hand. We should start dismissing allegations like these completely. And I'm going to make that case a little more aggressively in a minute. But they offered her every concession. The Democrats offered to send Grassley out to her to conduct the interview in her home, and she's refused that. Here's what's going on. It's part of a stalling tactic. It's part of a stalling tactic to illicitly interfere with the U.S. election. It is an active engagement by a political party and a political actor who is a member of that party for the explicit purpose of derailing an election. I'm not confused. I'm not confused. I understand that her attack is on the confirmation of Brett Kavanaugh to the Supreme Court. But make no mistake, the fact that there is a Supreme Court nomination, a major Supreme Court nomination, an important Supreme Court nomination, Donald Trump's second Supreme Court nomination, second of 4. Yes, it is the second of at least 4. Because Ginsburg's gone next summer. Ginsburg is done. They're holding her together with broomsticks and sealing wax. She's done. She's not cognitively competent to do the job now. But I digress. But the fact of this particular confirmation being so very on the eve of a midterm election, it's painfully clear that this is a stalling tactic designed to cause party shift, party infighting, and political dystopia for the purpose of trying to swing the election. They're trying to dishearten voters and enrage voters. Because who votes for Democrats? Well, let's see. What do Democrats offer? Democrats offer you free shit because you're poor. They offer to steal shit from people who aren't poor and give it to you because you're poor. So, yeah. Let's introduce some violence, some chaos, and fuck hope. They're selling hope to the hopeless. The hopeful needn't purchase hope. We needn't barter for it or buy it. We have it. The hopeless, the Democrat voter, the hopeless have been made hopeless by the Democrat, precisely so that hope can be sold to them at an extraordinary market markup, a gigantic price. They're buying their hope with a currency called liberty. When you trade your liberty for security, you deserve neither. Benjamin Franklin. The enemy is counting on people to be desperate and hopeless. And they're getting scared because the Trump economy is huge. The tariffs are working brilliantly. The manufacturing spikes are brilliantly effective. We have more jobs than unemployed now. Our problem now is not getting people jobs, it's getting the jobs people. We've talked about this a little bit before, and Mike Rowe's been talking about it a lot for several years now. I love Mike Rowe. Fine. Go watch his stuff. And I'm not just talking about, Dirty Jobs is a fun show and everything, but no, go watch some of Mike Rowe's conversations. In fact, Mike, I'll plug Ben Shapiro real quick. So I like Ben, but I really like the Sunday shows that Ben does, and he releases them before I go live, so y'all can watch those in the morning and then make sure you come back here and like, subscribe, and share, because I want Ben Shapiro numbers. I want Steven Crowder numbers. We'll get there. I got a lot to do. He had Mike Rowe on his show, and one of the things that Mike Rowe talks about is the kind of the death of the working man in this country. Y'all, I made the joke earlier that my buddy Steve and I built America before I went off to kill the enemy for her. And there's truth in that. I mean, we mostly built Savannah, Georgia, not so much America. I didn't get all over the country building, but I did before I was in the Army, before I was a soldier. I spent several years working as an industrial electrician. I built paper mills, oil refineries. I built churches, houses, warehouse clubs, grocery stores, doctor's offices, hospitals, you name it. I built everything. And hell, when we built the we did part of the electrical harness on the Hartsfield International Convention Center over by the Atlanta airport, busiest airport in the world. We built the convention center over there back in it was 2002 or 2003. It was shortly after 9/11. It was within a year or two of 9/11. And God, we pulled, I think it was 300,000 miles of cable. You're talking about braids of cables. Got a tool stuck in there. Oh God, no, baby! I got stabbed with tools way more than once. There's just the one that went through. But anyway, we built stuff all over the place. We're electricians. Now, I walked on to my first job as an electrician with absolutely no experience, no education in the field, nothing. My official title was helper, and all I did as a helper for the first 2 months or so is they pointed me at a wire rack, and a guy would come up and hand me a little slip of paper, and it would have gauges and lengths on it, and I would pull off, it'd be like, I need 3 12-foot 6-gauge wires, and I would pull those wires off and cut them and lay them in a pile on a pallet, and they'd get taken over to the building that was being wired. And then I got picked up from there and pulled wire into houses, and I would just pull the wire in through the pipes and leave it hanging out of panels, and an electrician would come by and terminate it. And then, a month or so later, I learned how to terminate wires. It's one thing to know that you plug them in and turn the screw down, to know what order they go in and how the color codes work and industry standards and the math on outputs and wattage and all that stuff. But I went in there knowing nothing, and within 6 months, I could rip all the wires out of a home and put them back in. Within 3 years, I had a company truck with a gas card, making good pay, working as a foreman, running jobs, building buildings, contract type work, and especially for a kid in his early 20s with low rent, and nobody really had cell phones were Nokia bricks if you had one. So low, almost no bills, good pay. That was solid. I guess I've gone off a little bit on a tangent here, but I'm going to use this to get back over to I'll use this to get back over to the Democrat Socialists of America. It'll fit. And then we talk about James O'Keefe a little bit. And then I'll be wrapping up because I'm running out of coffee. I'm sleepy. Don't make no more coffee, baby. We're done. As soon as the show's over, I'm going to bed. Okay. So, the problem that we have now is these kids, and we're not even talking about millennials anymore. Children who are in public schools now are being fed this lie that they cannot be successful, that they cannot have a good life, that they can't do anything but basically burger flipper unless they go to college for 4 years or more. And 4 years or more. All right, we're going to get back to Bernie and Ocasio-Cortez and the DSA on the whole idea of free college for all, and that's kind of what I'm going to wrap the show on tonight. They're coming out of high school thinking that if they don't go to college, they can't get any kind of a job. And the option to go to a trade school and get a much less expensive education and then go to work that's a perfectly legitimate option. But it's not that hard to just walk onto a job site with no skills as a low-level helper. You know, they're an electrician crew, a plumbing crew that's doing new construction. They need a kid with no skills who can dig a trench with a shovel. If you can pick up a shovel and dig a 9 or 12 inch deep hole in the ground, and then dig another one right next to it until you've got a trench, and you do that in a straight line, that's it. That's all you need. You do that, and by the time you've dug those trenches, they'll ask you to lay pipes down in them. By the time you've laid pipes down in them, it's not that big a leap for somebody to say, okay, you're going to make water go through this pipe, or okay, you're going to pull wire into this pipe. And before you know it, you're pulling wire. You're terminating industrial panels. You're hooking up terminals in the wall. You're throwing in light switches and hanging lights. And that's all you need to do. If you can pull wire, terminate a panel, finish an outlet, wire a switch, and hang a light, buddy, you can electrical. You can make 15, 20 bucks an hour and run with it. And if you run with that and you study, you can get better and you can learn new things. You learn about control wire and learn about HVAC and so on and so forth. And then you can work your way up into six figures without ever stepping foot into a hall of academia. Yeah, I don't know what to do about the echo. I don't even know how to start to track that down yet, babe. So I'll look at it later. But thanks for letting me know. I do need to know it. I just can't do anything about it right now. But the kids are coming out of school and they think that they have to have a 4-year degree to get any kind of a job. And you know, when I mention in public or in social gatherings that I was an electrician, in conversation I was an electrician, people will ask me where I went to school for that. And you know, back then it never even occurred to me that that was something you would go to school for. I just went to a crew and said, hey, I need a job. What can I do? I didn't even know I was going to be an electrician. I just needed a job at the time. In fact, I kind of thought I was going to end up painting things at the time, and I'm glad I didn't. But now you've got, you know, of course, Bernie really railed on it during the primary, and this Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, or as Andrew Clay, Alexandria Google Eyes Cortez, because she does, she's got bug eyes. Every time she opens her mouth, it looks like somebody slapped her in the back of the head. But they're talking about free college for all, and I've talked about this on this show. I've said it several times. Guys, y'all need to be telling people this. Y'all need to be having this conversation with your friends and family and talk about it on Facebook and social media and stuff, because these idiots, these Democrat socialists, these commies, these tyrannical monsters like Bernie Sanders and Ocasio-Cortez and Beto, they say that we should be providing a 4-year college degree at government expense, at taxpayer expense, at the expense of people who earned their 4-year college degree or more. They say that we should be giving free college to everybody. And the response, the argument against it that's waged by the right generally is it's a ridiculous proposition because it's so bloody expensive. We can't afford it. We're already up to our nuts in debt. We cannot cannot afford to add another crippling, debt-generating expense to our already insane welfare state. And that sounds like a reasonable argument, but it is not the correct argument. Alex, what's going on, brother? To argue that free college for all is too expensive and therefore it's prohibitively expensive, it just costs too much damn money, and that's why we can't do it. That argument is correct, and it should be effective, but it is not the argument that needs to be made. It's not the important argument. The correct argument to be made against the idea of free college is this. Until the mid-'80s, maybe early 90s, a man could graduate high school with a high school diploma, and that was education enough to enter the workforce and begin a career that might even include a pension after 30 years. That option no longer exists. Now, there are a lot of reasons that option no longer exists, and many of them have to do with bad government activities, bad planning, price controls, wage fixing, and of course, free market response to wage freezing is to artificially inflate wages by creating additional benefits to the healthcare system. So we end up with the madness that is healthcare being provided by employers, where of course you lose your job, you lose your healthcare. You lose your health insurance, not your healthcare. That's a different question. 20 years ago, a high school diploma had real value. Really did. If your high school diploma is the bullet point on your resume that you're hoping sells you as the guy they want to hire, brother, you might as well drop out of high school. If you have a high school diploma, that is as qualifying for any position that might hire you as not having a high school diploma. It is an absolutely valueless accomplishment. We are almost to the point that that's true of the associate's degree. And it's this simple. It's a supply market. It's a supply and demand situation. There are so many people with high school diplomas that there's a glut. There's a glut in the supply line, and so there's no demand for that attribute. The same is becoming true, almost as entirely true, of an associate's degree. There are so many people that have an associate's degree. Doesn't matter what the degree is in. There's so many people with that associate's degree, because an associate's, you're talking about 2 years of education, which, unless you're talking about a very specialized or specific technical or electronics, or you spent 2 years getting your CMOS, your C++ certificate. But just having an associate's degree is hardly better than having a high school education. So what happens when everybody gets a master's degree? It no longer has value either. If a master's degree suddenly has no more value, then the number of PhDs is going to skyrocket. Okay? Now, I realize this sounds like a slippery slope fallacy, but it's not. It's a slippery slope argument. Just because the slippery slope can be a fallacy does not mean that the slippery slope argument is itself fallacious. I would cite the question of gay marriage. I'm not going to elaborate, but I think you can extrapolate my point from that assertion. Go for something dirty, dangerous, and difficult. Those are the fun ones. Ah, yes. Yes, dear. Dirty, dangerous, and difficult jobs are fantastic. But I don't want to get spun off on the gender death gap tonight. Love you. So, if we start supplying free college education to everybody, then a college education continues to lose value. The more educated people you have in the marketplace, that's your supply line. The demand will not meet that. We have a similar problem now. We have a demand for
educated, skilled labor because of the growth of the economy and the rising number of jobs, especially in the until recently very slack construction industry. We're actually hearing, I don't know about you guys, but I'm actually hearing frickin' advertisements on the radio. You know, riding down the road, listening to political talk radio, and I'm hearing plumbers, plumbing companies and electrical companies and building contractors and the like advertising for employees. They're literally spending money to take out radio ad space. So you're talking about thousands of dollars per second in advertising that companies are buying to try and attract skilled laborers. They've got plenty of shithead helpers. They've got plenty of dumb kids who can dig a trench with a shovel. But they need an electrician who knows how to wire a house, who knows where the wires are supposed to go. They need somebody to train those kids to do the work. And those people are in short supply. So we're doing these kids a terrible disservice by shoving them off into universities. Hey, many of y'all know that I'm a college student. I find it very entertaining. I enjoy myself playing around at the college, arguing with liberals and shooting movies and talking about philosophy and convincing atheists that there must be a God. But God, I meet so many kids there that are just throwing their lives away. And it breaks my heart. So, all right. I think I'm just about cashed for the night, guys. Go out and check out some of the stuff that James O'Keefe has scratched up lately. I want to leave you with this one. Project Veritas, it's James O'Keefe and his ilk. They dug up some video. A couple of people working in government offices who are active Democrat Socialists of America activists who were caught admitting on camera, in fact, really caught on camera boasting about using government resources to support the DSA, the Democrat Socialists of America, in active defiance of the law and of the rules enforced by policy in those government branches. Okay, I'll backtrack to the thing. Yes, serious short supply. Alex, the apprenticeships, yes, apprenticeships aren't entirely history, but they certainly don't work the way that they used to. That's something that you and I could sit down and have a whole conversation about that. In fact, I wouldn't mind bringing Rod into that, probably Steve Rodemeyer. There used to be, now we're talking about not quite Middle Ages stuff, but then too. But it used to be that the way one mastered a trade is one apprenticed to a master, and apprenticing to a master essentially meant that you worked for room and board and the experience of apprenticing to the master. So you lived in the home. You lived in the master's house. You worked at the master's side. You did the crappy work. You know, if the master was a blacksmith, for example, he would beat the steel on the anvil while you brought it to him. You brought the steel to him, and you pumped the billows to make the forge work, and so on and so forth. And he would work for a time unpaid, except, of course, for room and board. You'd be kept and fed, and you'd work your ass off all day. and then you get to a point, you get to what's called you go from being an apprentice to being there's a step before journeyman, and I think it's novice. But basically you had degrees, like apprentice, journeyman, or apprentice, novice, journeyman, something master. And at the novice stage, you were basically doing projects. You were still doing the bitch work for the master, but sticking with the blacksmith example, you might do all the bitch work for the master to make the mastercraft swords, but you were also making, part of your work was also to make like the run of the mill sword. So a squad would come in, and the master would hammer out a beautiful saber for the sergeant, and it would be complex and special. Yes. And then the novice and the journeyman would be hammering out less high end. They'd be hammering out cheaper swords and doing repair to armor and stuff like that. While the master was doing the more complex work, and then you become a journeyman, and the journeyman is possessed of more skills than the novice and given more freedom, because the journeyman's going to be the guy that goes out and deals with the merchants and shops for the materials and brings back, and you develop one, and that's your career, right? But at that novice level, you've stepped up from apprentice to novice, and suddenly you're still working for the master and you're still learning the master's side, but you're also creating your own product, and you're able to trade and sell those products, so you start earning there. Yeah, hell yeah. I mean, let's put some cots in the workshop. You get 3 hots and a cot for 6 months while you're digging ditches and pulling wires, and the next thing you know, you're driving a truck and you've got 3 bums in your own basement who are learning to dig ditches and pull wires. You feed them, and then you kick them out on the truck. That sounds great to me. Because, okay, here's the thing about minimum wage. I wasn't going to get into minimum wage, but because we're talking about this kind of stuff, let me touch on that real quick. Minimum wage is a thing. Oh, excuse me. You always hear that argument that, capitalists, you evil capitalists, they just want to pay everybody as little as they possibly can. Okay, if that were true, why would anybody be getting paid more than minimum wage? You can't keep employees if you don't pay them. Minimum wage is too high. I'm going to say that again because you might not think you heard me correctly. Minimum wage in this country is too high. Flipping burgers is not worth $10 an hour. It's certainly not worth $15 an hour. Especially not when I can buy a machine that'll do it for me, and I just have to pay for the machine the one time. Managing burger flippers, that's worth $15 an hour. Sure. But your burger flipper, he's not producing $15 an hour in value. He's not. Unless he's the only worker in the kitchen, he's not. It's just that simple. Now, if he gets, he steps up and gets a little more skill under his belt, and he's more efficient, more useful, you rise to that level. But, a cashier who's doing some math, not just closing the clamshell and waiting for the beep and scooping the meat into a tray. A cashier worth a little more. Still not $15 an hour. It wasn't that long ago that making $10 an hour was an accomplishment. I remember I was making $15 an hour at the time. 20 years ago, 15 years ago, something. But the minimum wage, because burger flippers and that kind of work, and work below that, like the usher at the movie theater. You know the usher at the movie theater, the guy with the flashlight that walks you down the road and shows you your seat? No! You don't know that guy because he's not worth $5 an hour, so it doesn't exist anymore. It was a great place for a kid who didn't have any experience to go and get a job where he could start off with a job that paid next to nothing, but allowed him to establish a relationship with the company, allowed him to have access to learn on the job, and then he could become the guy that he could become a ticket seller. He could become a cashier. He could move up to be a manager. He could accept more responsibility, become a projectionist, so on and so forth. Right? You start on the bottom. You don't make a lot of money when you work on the bottom, and you work your way up. But if your job's not worth the money, then the job will cease to exist. The only reason the burger flipper still exists is because his replacement is still ever so slightly cost prohibitive. But that's becoming less and less true all the time. There's a lot of Mickey D's. Probably half the Mickey D's I walk into have already got the giant iPad that you walk up and poke to order your chow. And they ain't hard. Poke it a couple of times and stick a card in it, and somebody hands you food. The burger flippers will go next. And it's not just that the company wants to make money. That's a big part of it. But if you're billing, if you're paying the employee more than they generate, you're not going to stay in business. It's that simple. Okay, I could go off on this tangent and just get circular for forever, especially tired, caffeinated as I am. So I'm going to go ahead and call it a night. Guys, thanks for coming out. Thanks for watching the show tonight. Alex, thanks for showing up and checking us out in the comments there. I've been looking for you, brother. I will see you next week. Thanks for watching. I love you. I need you. Share the show. Like the show. Tell your friends. Make sure you're talking to people about what we talked about tonight as far as the correct argument against education for all, that it basically it increases the supply of educated labor, which lowers the demand for educated labor, which makes your college degree valueless. And burger flippers aren't worth $15 an hour. Oh, and the Democrats are commies, and the commies are bad. Get out there, spread the fire, and remember, if you build a man a fire, you'll keep him warm for the evening. But if you set his ass on fire, he'll be warm for the rest of his life. Good night.